What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Mr. Swarsky and the Onshape skills practice. Now, we are starting a new document because we are learning how to offset. Oops, that's not where I want to be. So I'm going to start a new doc. Remember to name it offset practice. Oop, that's not right. Done. So you should be doing the same. If you haven't, pause the video, make your offset practice document, and you should be where I am here. Now, offset is a cool skill that we can use to make lines and follow along contours and make cool extrusions and stuff. So I'm going to give you the basics for it, and then you're going to practice with it with a little activity at the end here on the next step. So offset is in your sketch tools. So I need to create a sketch. So I'll go ahead and do that. Remember, if I hit P, I want to get rid of my planes now that I have a sketch. And your offset tool is right here. Okay, now I can't offset anything until I make something to offset. So that's what I'm going to do to start with. So I'm going to make a circle just to begin, just so you can get the basics. So I'm going to click on my offset tool, and I'm going to select, what it's waiting for me to do is to select a line. So you're going to see it highlights orange or yellow. Click on that. And there's an offset. So this is what it's going to create. Now you see the arrow and the measure. I can change that. So I can use the arrow and I can make it thicker of an offset, and I can go in. So I can go in interior offset. And all it's going to do is whatever you select, your offset is going to follow that initial line that you selected by however much you decided. Okay, so let's offset it by 2. Right now it's 4.2. And you can see that it might be a little difficult to try and get it. And it's giving you this little left click check. So if I click, it's gonna give me an option to change the value. And I'm gonna do that. So I'm gonna change it to 2. And now I know that my offset is 2. So I just made a exterior line and an offset of 2. And I can also do that interior. I can go down this way, check, and I can say I want that at 2. So you can see that I can start making some pieces on there. Okay, I can do that with rectangles as well. So I go rectangle. Let's center this a little bit. I'm going to do a rectangle. Don't really care about that. I'm going to offset now. Now, when it's rigid shapes, meaning it's straight lines like this, not curves, it'll do it individually. So you see, like now I have one individually, like this, where I say, well, I don't want just one, I want all of them. Well, I just need to keep selecting the lines that I want. And you see that now it adds the offset that I want. So don't think so much about the measure at the moment. Pick the stuff that you want. And now I can offset how I'd like to. Okay, so maybe I want to do this one at 2.5. 2.5. Remember, I click, it'll give me an option, and now I have an offset option here. Okay, and the cool part is, like, if I hover over, you can see like I have now an outline that I can extrude, and I have an interior that I can extrude. So there's a bunch of different things that I can do with that. Okay, the other piece I can do with this is like my spline tool. And I can do this with the line tool as well. I just have to be careful, and I'm going to show you why. So I'm going to curve my way. Let's say I want to do that, and now, ooh, cool. Now I want to do an offset to it. You see that when I hover over it, it'll select the whole thing. And now it's giving me a little bit of a setup. It's saying like, ooh, I can't do that. Spline is a little weird, or offset's weird when you start doing custom lines. It has some limits to it. So if you watch, you see like I can go to here, but I can't go any farther. 0.7 seems about it. The reason is because it can't generate that based off how it goes in the interior. Now, if I move it the other way, you see that I have options a little bit more. So it's going to depend on how you make your lines. So you're going to have some limits on there. And that's just an unfortunate piece to your the tool and the limitations that it has. But I can still do an offset. It just depends on what I create on there. So same thing with if I do the line tool. So let's say I'm going to go let's see what it does here. And you can see that because it's rigid, meaning straight lines, I have to select each one individually. Now it's going to start giving me some warnings. You see that it says it on here because obviously it's too thick. But you can see that this one will start working and it'll offset that way. So you kind of got to play around with what you want. It takes a little bit to kind of understand where your limitations are. The big limits or the things you have to be aware of is when you start using the spline tool. Anything with curves can kind of cause problems. So that's the basics for offsets. Now, when you're done with it, I'm just going to click again, hit enter. Here's what splines can do for you. Or sorry, not splines, offsets. If I click and I want to do an extrusion, now you see that from that, I made a custom thing with my offset. So it makes all these lines, these cool pieces on here. So you can see kind of where this gets pretty neat. I can start making some custom walls, if you want to say it like that. I can do it with this one too. Might have to zoom in a little bit there. Let's extrude that guy. Done. Now I got an extrusion there. I can do the same thing with this. I can extrude. Done. So you can see where this gives you a benefit. It kind of makes a wall in there. I can also grab, remember if I unhide my sketch, I can see everything. I can also make extrusions with the bases here too. Maybe I don't want to go that far. So I have that. I can do a base and I can close this off. Let's do an extrusion. Of course, I don't want to go that far, so let's just go down. It's nice if you want to have your bottom. So like, let's say you're doing a container. If you want your bottom to be a little thicker than the walls for whatever reason you want, now you have an option to do that. So offsets are a pretty cool tool. So your next step, you're going to do a little bit of just a small practice activity. But also before you do that, just play around with it, see what you can do. It's kind of a neat little tool to play around with. So see you on the next video and enjoy doing